Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Your Farmer podcast, The Ranch. This is a podcast where we come together as farmers and share our stories with others all around the world. Today I am joined by special guest Kaz. He is a fellow farmer who has gone through some hardships developing his land over the past few years, but has pulled through to make a truly miraculous comeback. Kaz, how are you doing today?
It's a beautiful morning today. I'm feeling pretty good, actually. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? What inspired you to start farming?
Well, if you were to tell me like 5 years ago that I would end up as a farmer, I would probably think that you were insane, to be honest. I grew up in a small town, Ohio, and all I wanted to do was get to the big city, But during the summer of 6th, 7th grade, I don't know, maybe. Anyways, I had a family friend who needed some extra muscle, during doing a gardening project, and she was quite elderly, so I figured out I had to do the most of the work myself. But she did offer $100, so I was like, fuck it, I had to go. And even though my body was tired after the job, I really enjoyed it, and it was my first time that I could somewhat envision myself as a farmer. But I was still dead set on going to the city, so.
So what was the final straw that made you take the big leap and start a farm?
Actually, one of my closest friends from high school, Sean, he decided that he wanted to start a yam farm in Wisconsin. Knowing about my interests, he invited me to join him as a business partners. And at first, I didn't really have any plan on what I would do if I made it to the city. I didn't even know which city I wanted to go to. Just that I wanted to leave my small town and go into a new state would really help me with that. After thinking about it for a couple of days, I accepted that.
So how did you two come up with the money to buy the land?
Since we were pretty young, no bank wanted to give us the loan for the farm, so we had to loan most of the money from Sean's uncle, who was some C-level executive at some big pharmaceutical company. And we also loaned from him to buy the seeds and some basic equipment. Tractors, plows, fertilizer, and all that jazz,
Well, starting a farm does come with its challenges. How were the first few months of co-owning and operating a farm?
The actual manual labor was something that I already expected, so it wasn't too big of a deal. But what really surprised me was the management and the logistics side of the owning a farm. For example, the farm was a total of 5 acres, so we needed to hire some people, We had to worry about the irrigation, which was something that me and Sean never even thought about, along with some money aspect, and finding someone who would commit to buying our product was it was really overwhelming.
So how did you guys learn the ropes of managing the logistics of a farm?
Well, it really came down to the community. We received so much advice and support from the entire farming community, and they give us so much more than advice. They would often invite us to a community dinner and send us care packages with some of their harvest, and they would check on us weekly, and that really made us feel comfortable within the community. And especially after that incident with Sean.
What happened with Sean? Did you feel as if you two weren't on the same page a lot of the time?
No, actually, when it came to decisions, we would usually be on the same page, in the same book. But I remember it was our second Christmas on the farm. While we were having some trouble financially, we pretty much had a good grasp on the whole farming thing. In fact, I felt like a whole new person. Anyways, we were planning to throw a banquet and invite our neighbors to thank them for all their hospitality. However, 2 weeks before, Sean had a strong discussion with one of the field hands about pay. And I wasn't there, but it must have gotten pretty heated because the next day, the farmhand attacked Sean with a knife, and he got fucked. He got killed.
Oh, I'm sorry for bringing that up. Are you okay?
Yeah, I try not to dwell or think about it too much on my emotions about that time. The guy that did it is in jail for life without parole. And again, I look towards my community for emotional support. At the same time, I had a farm to keep up and maintain. Like I said, we were a little financial troubles, and now I needed to find some new group of workers for obvious reasons. However, Hank, one of my closest confidants, now really helped me and suggested that I buy a machine to automate the hard labor for me. And my farm was a perfect size, and the machine was very good at doing its job. So, but the only issue with that was the price tag. I think it was close to like a couple maybe $1 million, like and I think if I recall, I think it was about like $700,000, and that was about the amount like Sean I borrowed from his uncle. So as you could imagine, he was not very happy when I asked him for another 700,000. And but I feel that under the lights of Sean dying, like he really felt bad for me and ended up loaning me the money.
How was the experience of having to learn how to operate the machine? Has it ever shut down on you? Is it worth it?
One thing that I have actually learned after farming for a couple years is that as a farmer, you need to be able to adapt to anything. So adapting to the machine was really no problem at all. In fact, I was really impressed with how far the technology had come. I became very passionate about management side of things and creating new opportunities for the farm. In fact, my machine, or Betsy as I call her, won me a bid for a multi-million dollar contract with a potato chip company. When I was signing the contract in sight, one of the managers was telling me that they picked me because they liked the fact that my farm was very progressive and ethical by not having humans work on my farm. If they only knew the real reasons, but I will not complain about the money.
If you could go back and do it all over again, what would you change?
I'm currently satisfied, very satisfied with my life choices, as those are ultimately the things that made me who I am today. But if I could go back and have the same knowledge I have now, I would most definitely would have bought Betsy sooner.
Are machines like Betsy a real game changer for farmers?
I would say they definitely are. It's much easier to manage your farm when you have such a dependable super worker that is never tired. You don't have to worry if they're late, if they're sick, if they find a different job. Like, if they had this shit like back in the slavery days, like man, like plantation owners will make him like big bucks. Well, like there's a certain peace of mind that comes with like owning a machine like Betsy, and I wish I had that sooner. Uh, the issue is of course the buy price, but I hear many of the companies making these machines are doing payment plans so people can just pay it off the machine in smaller payments rather than a lump sum.
So, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you want to accomplish in that time?
Well, at this point, I am more of a manager than a worker, and to be honest, I prefer it that way so that I can work when I'm older and not inherit the health problems and often pain that comes with heavy physical labor. And I would like to open a new yam farm at a different location. I'm just buffing out the details right now. I think I'm also